What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Let me be a part of your show. Video dance parties, karaoke jams, and weddings. Those have been my specialties. Oh, yeah. Good times. Today on the program, I have Mark Grisham. Who's Mark Grisham? What? You don't know by now? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, I will be at the Cedar Lounge Bar and Grill in Morrilton, Arkansas on Thursday night for the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Yeah, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. The stage is yours. You provide the entertainment. I'm just pushing buttons. I'll play some background music, and I'll set up the good microphones and the good speakers and the lights for you, so that way you'll feel like a star when you're on stage. And you are a star when you're on stage at the Cedar Lounge Bar and Grill in Morrilton, Arkansas. That's Thursday from 6 till 10 in the p.m. Start the weekend early. I like it. And then speaking of weekend, Friday night, I will be at my regular Friday night gig, the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Yeah, the video dance party. Once again, karaoke jam. Yeah, I said karaoke. If you sing in the car, if you sing in the shower, you could sing on stage at the Rab from 8 p.m. until 1 in the a.m. Full bar, kitchens open, pool tables, pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try to make some money playing pool, I encourage you. Check out the Rab Friday night, Conway, Arkansas, 8 p.m. until 1 in the a.m. Oh, my goodness. Good times, good times. Speaking of good times, well, I think that's enough intro. You know where I'm going to be this weekend. Oh, yeah, I do have a wedding on Saturday. I mentioned that because I'm so happy that weddings are back, baby. Yes, they are. I have a wedding. I enjoy being a part of your special day. All right. That's enough intro. Let's get into it with Mark Grisham. Now, I got Mark Grisham on the Skype, so if you are listening to the audio version only, I encourage you to check out the video version. Head over to my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN, or just look up KeysDAN, and you'll see the Radio What logo next to one of those YouTube pages. I have 3 of them. One's for karaoke, one's for the weddings, and then the one's for the radio. And I use that for the podcasts and such. So look up KeysDAN on YouTube, and you'll find Mark Grisham, amongst other interviews, amongst other podcasts there. All right, let's get into it with Mark Grisham. Skyping Mark Grisham now.
Got a halo behind me or something, don't it?
Yeah, that light's like right behind you. Yeah, most of the 15-year-old girls, when they're taking their selfies, they like to get the light. They like to get the camera like above them. That might be too dark.
Okay, I don't take many selfies, that's for sure. Obviously, one.
He strikes me as a manly man.
I need more light. That's too much light. Okay, hang on. I got my wife. I got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they were going to leave. That's why I'm stuck in the back bedroom. So now she's telling me they are going to leave. So I'm going to get out of the bedroom.
That's the problem with us.
Chaos, man. Chaos.
Us family men.
60-year-old needs to be raising a 3-year-old.
Us family men, we get stuck in a corner. If we get a closet, that's great. If I get an easy chair, that's great.
Okay, somebody's trying to call in. I'm having to use my wife's phone. I do apologize. But anyway, how you doing, brother? Good to meet you finally. And sorry for all the delays in getting a hold of each other.
No worries at all, man. Mark Grisham, you're the goods. I don't feel like there was any delays at all. It's nice to...
Well, I know I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Nice to see your face, man.
Same here, bro. Same here. Well, how you liking Little Rock?
Man, I'm in Conway, which is about 30 minutes north of Little Rock, but I spend a lot of time in Little Rock doing weddings and parties and such like that. But, man, Mark Grisham, good chatting with you, good seeing your face, man. I could see that you got a lot going on. I rarely do these on Sundays, but for you, I make an exception. I know you got some stuff going on, man. Let the people know who is a Mark Grisham.
Well, he's just an old country boy, I guess, from Arkansas. We moved to Memphis when I was a little boy and grew up outside of Memphis and ended up going back to Arkansas to get educated over at Arkansas State and made some great friends over there, and just kind of torn between Arkansas and Mississippi most of my life, and now up in the eastern part of Tennessee. So I don't know where I belong, but we're just rolling along, doing what the good Lord wants us to do, and hopefully everything will work out. So,
well, it looks like you're following.
Love Little Rock.
Following the kind of the path of Elvis Presley, because you got the Mississippi and the Tennessee part correct there, and I'm guessing he must have spent some time in Arkansas. I'm from Miami.
Well, the town I was born in Black Oak is actually Black Oak, Arkansas, so that gives me a little rock and roll background there, though.
Yeah,
Black Oak, Arkansas.
Black Oak, Arkansas, man. I played them. I DJ parties about 2 or 3 times a week, and I played their stuff about a week ago. Occasionally I do some of that classic Southern rocks type stuff. But hey, if you could,
to the rescue, huh?
Yeah. Hey, if you could put that camera sitting in front of you, man, get it comfortable, and we'll get this thing rolling. We're on. I never edit too much, but the people that are listening to the audio version of this, I want them to be able to go over to the YouTube page and check out the video version. So you'll see Mark Grisham's beautiful face right there next to me. If I'm pointing, I'm pointing at you on the broadcast software.
No close-ups. No close-ups.
Oh, you are way close up, man. You ready for that, Mr. DeMille? So you've already mentioned.
That's scary.
You've already mentioned you're in your 60s, man. That's cool. I'm 51. I forget my age already. I'm 51, and I celebrated my age when I started, when I became 50. Before that, I was kind of a little hesitant to tell my age. In the entertainment business, you're like, oh, I don't want to age myself out of things. But as soon as I turned 50, I was like, screaming it from the rooftops, like Molly Shannon in that SNL skit. I'm 50.
Yeah.
I'm 50.
Yeah. I made it.
Yeah, that's right. How have you grown up through the years from Black Oak, Arkansas? See, I'm transplant. I'm from Miami, Florida, South Florida, the Florida Keys, which is where KeysDAN comes from.
Another world down there, isn't it?
Absolutely. I came up here. I married a hillbilly. Well, I married a hillbilly down there, and then she got homesick, and we ended up here. So that's how I ended up in Arkansas back in 2009. Okay. And so far, man, it has been good to me. So tell me about your life in Black Oak, Arkansas. A small town kind of thing, or is it a little bigger? Tell me about Black Oak.
It's population 262 now, I think. It was 272 for years. Now it's down to 262. I'm not sure what happened, but it's a tiny, tiny little town. There's not even a red light. I think there's maybe one stop sign, and that's it. But it's about 30 miles outside of Jonesboro. And we left when I was about 2 years old and moved to Memphis. I actually moved around a few other places. We ended up in Memphis by the time I was about 6 years old. And I actually grew up just across the state line from Memphis. I graduated from high school there, went on to, like I said, to Arkansas State and got educated. I had too much fun to get a degree, but I did have a lot of fun, made a lot of great friends over at Arkansas State, and still stay in touch with a lot of them. But left there, came back home. Dad had an equipment business, went to work for him. That played out over a few years. And I've been self-employed, and then just kind of stumbled into the first novel back in 2005. I was going through a hard time, and I had a buddy who had a Christian counseling ministry, and we got to talking and chatting every day. And he would ask me a Civil War question. I'd give him a 30-minute answer, and he would be like, man, you ought to write a book, So that went on, and he finally asked me one day, with a background in psychology, he asked me, how they deal with mentally ill people during that era. And I was like, I have no idea. I've never read anything about it. So that light bulb started going off. So we actually wrote a book and got it published by Borders before they went out of business, just as the whole economy crashed in 2008. So thank you very much. Well, I guess we caused that one. And then last year, when mine came out in November, a couple months later, we had the coronavirus. So I guess I caused that too. And I'm scared to write another book because it may be the end of times, but that's probably not a bad thing after all there. But just always had a love for storytelling. Of course, I've I've been asked a million times since John started doing this thing about 30 years ago, when are you going to write a book? What's wrong with you? How come you haven't written, and blah, blah, blah. So by golly, we did it. Hadn't set the world on fire, but we're having a good time doing it. So that's life in a nutshell, I guess. I got a beautiful wife. I went to high school with her. We went our separate ways after high school and reunited about 15 years ago. Just the better part of me by jillions. And then we ended up adopting 2 little kids. We got a 3-year-old boy and a 4.5-year-old boy we've had for about 3 years now. So we were kind of thinking we was going to wind down at this stage of our lives, but good Lord had other plans for us. So we are raising babies, still changing diapers, man, and they're not grandkids. They're kids. They're adopted. So pray for us if you would, brother. Pray for us if you would.
Mark Grisham, man, I could tell you're a storyteller, man, and you've probably told some of that story 100 times before. But man,
oh, yeah.
We've got so much to go through. Starting in Black Oak, Arkansas, a little 200-person town. When I first got here, I was in Holland, Arkansas, which is about 500 people in that town, and they don't have a traffic light. They had an old store that closed down. They got a couple of cemeteries, and it's kind of spooky going through there. Plenty of churches. There's a lot of churches here in Arkansas, I noticed. And
we always got a church. I don't care how small the town is. They're going to have a couple of churches there, no doubt.
For sure. But the people, I guess, Holland Baptist Church, I spent some time there learning about that. I mean, growing up in Black Oak, Arkansas, was there, what was the city, what was the life like? I know you left at 2, so you really don't remember much about that.
Well, I tell you what, if John wrote a book called The Painted House.
Yeah.
And if you've ever read it or saw the movie, that is his remembrance of his early childhood in Black Oak.
Okay.
He's 6 years older than I am, so he had a lot of memories from there. And the funny thing was, in the book and in the movie, he's an only child, though, and there's actually 5 of us, so we kind of figured out his true feelings for his siblings there, because he eliminated us in the book he wrote. So that was kind of, never could get a straight answer out of him, because I used to ask him, what's the deal? Why aren't we in the book? And he never would answer me. So I think deep down, that's the way he wanted it to be. So it's his book. He can tell the story any way he wants to, I guess. But that was filmed in a little old town called Lepanto, which is 15 miles from Black Oak. And it was if you've never seen it, man, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. John even narrates it, so it's pretty cool.
Well, I'm guessing it's in the blood then, John Grisham being your brother, and he's had a little bit of success as an author, but you've got your own books that have been put out there in the world. I mean, what made you become an author? You said you went to Arkansas State, and back then, what was the mascot at Arkansas State?
We were the Indians.
Indians.
Yes, we were the Indians, the mighty Indians. Jumpin' Joe was our mascot. We still have an old group of guys that played together, and we call ourselves the Old Warriors. We renamed it, or named it many years ago before they changed the name to Red Wolves. So we kept the Old Warriors group, and we used to get together every fall and have a big cookout. And I don't know, it seemed like over time, fewer and few guys show up. I got to where I hadn't made the last several because I'm so far away now up here in East Tennessee. So, but we were the Indians, and we had a great bunch of folks over there. It really is.
You said you partied a lot, and I played around a lot the first year I went to college, so I didn't get much done. I did a lot of DJ parties in my fraternity, but what did you end up studying at ASU, and what did you end up getting any kind of a degree over the years, or what did you study?
I was a history major. I majored in history. That's the only thing that really kept my interest, and I'd go to my history class. About the only ones I went to. I was about a year from graduating, and I quit and transferred to. It was funny. We were going to write a book one time. John and I were on. This is 35, 40 years ago, on how not to play college football, because I kept transferring and quitting and transferring and quitting, and before I knew it, my eligibility was up, and I was like, "Gosh, boy, I really screwed that up there." So. We were kind of joking about it at one time, and it kind of fizzled out, and he went in a different direction there. But whatever direction he went in, it's definitely where he needed to be. So
no, it's fantastic. I mean,
had a good time.
Yeah, you never know where this literary offering that you've put out there is going to go. I mean, perhaps there will be something in your future. But all right, let's go back through where you were. Okay, you went to Memphis. And Memphis is a town, man. I'm an Elvis fan. By proxy of my grandma, 91-year-old grandma, still kicking in the Florida Keys. She was an Elvis fan, or is an Elvis fan, and then she got me into Elvis. So when I've gone to Graceland 3 times in my life, 99 and 2004, and more recently, I can't remember exactly what year, but I remember that we were allowed to go up into we're allowed to go up the stairs to see the bedroom, not go into the bedroom in 99, but since they've closed that. But Memphis, man, now that's where you primarily grew up, right, Mark?
Oh yeah, we moved there. I was in the first grade or second grade. Graduated from high school, went in and out of college, and kept ending up back in Memphis. I finally left. I left in '96 and moved to Heap Springs for a couple of years, and left there and went to Georgia for a few years, and ended up coming back. And then about 10 years ago, had a really good job offer in Birmingham after our first book played out, and I moved off to Birmingham. So it's always been home. It just seems like I'm always coming or going, but it's always home. So,
but in
most
school,
of my friends are still there.
In school, was history like your area of expertise? And it sounds like you're a Civil War buff, amongst other things. I was. I grew up playing with Civil War soldiers and learning about the rebels and Yankees. And I got over there and I got into the history classes, and boy, yeah, they really teach you so much about the diplomacy behind the war, why it didn't have to happen, what. Pretty much like today, you got a bunch of politicians that won't get too political, but they really can't seem to get anything right, and that's about what happened then. It was a terrible time in our history for a lot of folks, and just the way it all came about, it just really created some wounds that I don't think have healed yet. I think there's still a lot of wounds out there. Absolutely, man. I mean, the division in this country, and I want you to get too political if that's something that's on your mind, if it's something that's in your area of expertise, the politics
I'm not an expert.
Well, the politics of 1860.
I've never. I'm sorry.
The politics of the 1860s. How the division of the country in the Civil War. Are they reflected in today's politics? Do you see any similarities, or is it all getting better and better? I mean, I figure we're living in the best times right now. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? What are your views on that, Mark Grisham?
Well, we're very divided, and that's how it was in 1860. I mean, the southern states were saying if Lincoln gets elected, we're seceding. There's probably talk of secession going on right now in several states in the country. I hate to see us so divided. I hate that you got the race mongers out there on both sides that are trying to make it a racial issue. And my wife was asking me the other day, and we were just kind of talking about race, and she said, "Do you think there'll be a race war?" And I'm like, "How can there be a race war? This country is so evenly. You have interracial marriage, interracial kids. Everything is not a race. I mean, I have great friends that are black, white, brown, and yellow. I mean, how do you pick out and say, okay, I don't like you guys anymore. We're going to have a big shootout? That's insane. We can't have a race war. I mean, this is America, man. I don't know what people are thinking, and I think the two extremes are making a whole lot more noise than they should be, and a lot of people are getting sound bites from that. Maybe that's what feeds. I don't know what feeds it all. I don't know, but I'm not smart enough to figure it all out. I just know there's a lot of crazy going on in this country, and it don't have to be like that. So
yeah, it gets amplified on social media, man. You get one nut on either the right or the left that are saying something, and hold on, we lost each other. Let me get them back here. There you go.
How's that?
Yeah, man, we could chit chat now. I think what happened was we started talking politics and we got shut down.
Maybe that's what it is. We don't need to talk about politics.
Oh my goodness! But you got to, man. You got to realize that most people are right down the middle. Right down the center, man. I like a little bit off of column A. I like a little bit off of column B, and look, we'll have a meal right here down the center, man. We could chat. Just because people are on different sides of the spectrum, it doesn't mean they can't be human and civil to each other.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I hope a lot more people start to see it like that. Right now, I think the division is just blinding us somehow. I don't know what. I know the devil's out there working, and he's loving this right now. So we just got to remember where our priorities are and how we got here, and chill out, man. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be good.
Yeah, the thing is, Mark Grisham, most of us are right down the center here. You know,
Right.
the amplification of the people all the way to the right and all the way to the left is what gets stuck on social media, and those voices get expanded further and further and further, even though they're little tiny small voices. You know, but
Well, it makes good news too. You know, the news
yeah,
loves the dirty laundry. It makes great
absolutely.
news stories,
And you're saying that
and
it
that's
was
what it's all about for them.
You're saying that it was going on back in the Civil War, back in the 1860s, that this division
Oh yeah.
was back then. And I mean, shoot, it had to be divided because there was a whole Civil War about it, and that's stuff that you get to write about. You know, so tell me about that first book. What was that entailing? Unfortunately, I haven't been able to sit down and read the books or listen to the audio books. Do you have audio versions of your books out there?
No, we don't. We've got the Kindle and just the hardback, but I'll send you some.
No.
The first book, like I said, it deals with mental health. The guy I wrote with kind of came up with an idea for an insane asylum outside of Richmond during the Civil War, and they tried their best to treat wounded soldiers and mentally ill people, and they just ended up torturing them and experimenting on them for the most part. And my part of the book was a couple of soldiers in Lee's army, two brothers that are reunited right before the Gettysburg campaign. Talks about what they all go through. It's the life of a soldier, you know, what their emotions are, what their thoughts are, not just, you know, let's go kill some Yankees and get this over with. There's a lot to it, man, a lot to it. So these guys, they were some tough son of a guns. You know, we talk about the greatest generations. I think the generations got stronger every decade or every generation for a while, but the last 2 or 3 kind of reverted back. I think we're getting softer every generation now.
I
Get these
suspect
kids off the couch and out of the potato chips and off the video games and get back in the real world here. It's just, I don't know. Or maybe that's just our evolution. I don't know.
No, I suspect you're right, man. You know, stuff is getting spoon fed to us. All the information that you need is at the touch of your fingers. So really, you don't got to learn anything. You can pick up your phone. No. Oh, I don't know the answer to that. Well, let me hit the Google. Oh, there it is. There's the answer. But does it get really ingrained into your head? Like if you were going to school, like if you were actually studying from a book, does it really get ingrained? Or is this just information that you keep on your short-term memory, just enough to get the answer out there, and then it's out, it's gone again?
It is, and the victimization. Everybody's a victim now. Nobody's accountable. If it's happened, it wasn't my fault. It was something that happened to me 30 years ago, and all this other. So, I don't know. I just think we've gotten on the wrong track. Got away from God. Got out of the Bible. I kind of lost our way a little bit, but it's nothing that can't be reversed and made right. So,
well, Mark Grisham, was that something that you grew up with in Memphis? Is that something that you had? Was an upbringing that was in the Bible? Did you go to church and learn some teachings that way, or
absolutely?
How was it?
I think my parents knew I was going to be a handful, so they had me in church every opportunity they could. But yes, there was so much, and I walked away when I went to college and went nuts for a few years. And man, when life humbles on you, you end up on your knees and everything's going crazy, and all of a sudden you remember some of the stuff you learned as a little boy because it was put in your head, and it brings you back, and then you realize it's not as bad as it seems, and lean on God, and everything's possible, man. It's amazing. Life is hills and valleys and sharp curves and even sharper curves, but you got the right man riding with you. You're gonna make it. So.
Yeah, I grew up in Catholic school. I went from 2nd to 6th grade in Catholic school, and I remember going to church and learning some teachings. But I remember a lot in that particular religion, and I've gone to different religions from then till now. I remember it was a lot of mystery. You know, every time I'd ask my preacher something, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. Well, I needed some answers, and I couldn't. Reading the book, I got the idea of what was in there, what's in the Bible, but I don't. It's so misinterpreted. It's so interpreted. How can you discern what's in there? I think it's a good book of instructions. I'm sure that it is, but it's just the I guess what is it? Religion is perfect. It's the people that aren't, the people that try to interpret the word. You know, and that it strikes hatred in some folks. I see some churches that hate other people, and I know I saw a meme on my social feed. It said, if your church teaches you to hate somebody else, consider finding a new church. You know, but
yeah, that's not a good church. You don't want to be in there if we're preaching hatred. That's for sure. But Now we're blessed here. We got a great church family, and I tell you, that's something that as I grew up and started having kids, and I got married, started having kids. My mother used to always tell me, "You need to find a church home and a church family. You'll appreciate the daylights out of it someday when you need them." And I never did until I did need them. And when I did need them, man, they were there. It's amazing having people that, you've only known them for a few years, and I mean, you need something, they'll give you the shirt off their back, every dime in their, in their wallet, and just do anything in the world for you, man. But then, I don't know. There's good and bad. See, my mom always told me if people are in church, at least they're trying to be better anyway. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what she always told me, and always told me to look for the best in everybody. So that's what I've always tried to do. It's not easy sometimes, but it's best if we can, I guess. But
yeah, Mark Grisham, when you come out of church, you want to be smiling. You want to be happy, that you learned something good. Yeah. All right. That was good fellowship. That was some good teaching. That was some good word. Yeah. You don't want to come out there feeling, ooh, I got to go hurt that guy because he doesn't think the way I do. No. Well, that's good. That's good that you found a good place to worship and to get yourself straight and get, if it helps you, do it. For sure, but if it's hurting you, don't do it, by all means. But going back to the Civil War, I mean, they're your area of expertise. Was that something that you liked in high school as well? Was that something that you got into? I remember my brother and I have a younger brother, about 3.5 years younger. We were really into World War II. I had model airplanes of World War II and little Army soldiers. And when I'd come home from school, my brother would get home just about a half hour before me. I would see my little Army soldiers were melted like from fire, and and I would go to my brother, hey, what happened to my Army soldiers? Oh, they got killed. Sorry, they
flamethrower, huh?
Yeah, they got killed. I mean, you and John growing up, were you both into the Civil War? Did you have that kind of a relationship where you played together like that?
Nah, he's 6 years older than I was, so I was always a pesky little brother getting on his nerves. We did play Civil War. We'd have armies, out through the neighborhood, and God forbid a kid from up north moved into our subdivision because we just terrorized that kid and chased him all over the place. But now John he was pretty serious. Mama said he was born serious. I don't know what that means, but he was just a typical kid. Went to Mississippi State, graduated a degree in accounting. You would have never known he was going to be a famous author. And just all of a sudden, he got into the legislature. He became a judge. And he started seeing a few stories that he turned into the book of Time to Kill. And man, after that, everything he wrote was a bestseller. And I think he's on 17 million copies of The Firm, which is just mind-boggling. Sell that many copies of one book. But guy's amazing, man. So I'm about 35 books behind him, and probably about 300 million in sales because I think he sold 300 million books worldwide, and I'm not even close to that. So I'm a little behind. I got a little catching up to do. But,
you still got time. You still got time, Mark Grisham. Time will tell. So. It's not a competition. Yeah, it is. When you're with your brother, it's always a competition.
It is. And I got 2 little boys to raise, so I got to get a few more years out of this body anyway. So
see, my
wife walking behind me.
That's beautiful. Hey, my brother, he's got 4 kids, and I only got 2. So yeah, it's a competition. It's always a competition. But all right. So growing up, he was a little older. See, I was the oldest brother. Do you have any other siblings?
I got a brother a year younger than him, a sister 2 years older than him, and a sister 8 years younger than me. So I got them. We got them spread out pretty good.
Yeah. Did they all end up in the author field, in the literary field, or what?
No, just me and John so far.
Yeah. Well, that's.
I had a great grandmother. My mother used to show me or tell me about my great grandmother, who was a poet, and she had a big old book one time that she showed me that her grandmother handed down to her, and it was just hundreds and hundreds of poems. None of them were ever published. It was just put in this big book. And she would I remember my mother telling me that as a child, her grandmother would read her poems, and she would tell her that I will wake up in the middle of the night with a poem in my head, and I can't go back to sleep until I get it out of my head. So she would have to go in there and write it on out. Once she did, she could go back to bed. The thoughts were gone. So maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know. My dad was a great storyteller. He was a fantastic storyteller and joke teller. He couldn't remember every joke he ever heard, and it'd take you 5 minutes to tell you sometimes, and you'd have you on the edge waiting on the punchline. But I mean, he just had a great delivery and was a great storyteller too. So I don't know. and a lot of it comes just from growing up and being full of baloney, if you know what I mean. Always getting in trouble because you told too much of this or not enough of that or something like that. But probably better watch my mouth. I'll get in trouble if I don't watch it here. So.
Well, these are the seeds that were planted years ago, man. Your grandma and your dad were planting these seeds that turned into storytelling for the family. So the Grisham family, it seems like there are storytellers all through. Between Mark, you're telling stories, but man, there was something I was thinking about while you were telling that, and it was just oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure I'll come up with it just in a little bit, but Mark Grisham, I mean, there's in Memphis. Well, tell me more about Memphis and you growing up there. Was it was there? Oh, the whole reason that I started this "What Makes You Famous" podcast was to talk to people. Everybody's got a story. There's always a story to tell, man. So from the time you're born, you start gaining knowledge, gaining experiences, and that's how you became who you are. But it all starts even before you were born. You got the parents and the grandparents that were planting those seeds, and I'm glad that the seeds have grown into a Mark Grisham that writes books and tells stories. Particularly about the Civil War, man. I'm kind of been interested in the Civil War, and you mentioned that the country being divided back then, and I know that's on my mind right now. I'm trying not to have an agenda. I want this to be a story about you, Mark Grisham. I want you to talk about whatever you want to talk about, but I know that's something that's on our minds right now at this particular moment in time. So as you're writing that first book about the mental institution in the 1860s during the Civil War, I mean, how did that go? And then what have you been doing since then?
Well, like I said, Borders published the books, and it didn't do very well because they shut the division not long after we signed a contract with them. So we were turned over to the marketing division, which were on a skeleton crew. So we never got any marketing, we never got any publicity, and the book just fizzled and died. And that was 2008 when the housing crash happened and the economy was tanking. So we kind of went back to our day jobs. I went back. I had bought the last couple thousand copies of Bedlam South. That's the name of the book. Bought them from Borders before they finally shut the doors. And me and my wife went on a little journey. We thought we was going to sell all those books to get rich off of them. And we did. We traveled all over Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee, just having a big time, speaking at libraries, bookstores, Christmas shows, gun show, anybody that would let us come and sit and talk about our book for a while. We did that and had a blast doing it, but it's tough to make a living doing that. So it was just happened to get a great job offer in Birmingham just right about 10 years ago. And we loaded up, moved to Birmingham. I stayed there about 5.5 years. And after about 3 years in Birmingham, the job I had kind of played out. So I started writing on Diablo. That's the book that came out last fall. And didn't finish it until last summer. And I just wrote it, and I let a few people read it, and they just went on and on about how good it was. And so I talked to TJ about this time it was last spring, I guess, a year ago, and he was talking it up and had me on his show and podcast, and just kind of got my fever up to do a little writing, and I finished the book and got it published. We didn't get our books until November, just about this time last year. So we caught the tail end of the Christmas rush, and then we're just starting off the 2020 looking pretty good. Had a few speaking engagements in libraries and all that good stuff going on, and then COVID hit, and man, the door slammed, and that's been it. Tried to do a little bit online, but I think it's kind of, if it sounds good, everybody's going to be home, stuck at home during the quarantine, but what they don't tell you is most people have kids, and their houses are just like my house was, just all time. So not a lot of quiet time for reading, I wouldn't imagine. So hopefully things are coming back around. We're going to get out here in the next few weeks, right before Christmas, and see if we can drum up a little interest and maybe sell a book or two. Who knows? But just enjoying it.
Well, you were talking about TJ from Nashville Entertainment Weekly. He had me on his podcast, and simultaneously I had him on my podcast. So we've talked a little bit. I'm glad that you're in with them. They seem like a real ambitious group, man. The two of them, husband and wife team, that really try to push people along. Hopefully you get a little traction on this next book here. But I mean, tell me a little bit about the day job that you had to go to. We were talking about how the kids aren't getting out of the house and they have no skills and their minds are getting weak because they're stuck indoors. They don't go outside and play like I used to when I was a kid. I'd go out in the morning on a Saturday morning and my mom would say, "Come back before the street lights are on." That's it. And she wouldn't know where I was most of the time, but I was probably out riding my bikes with some of my friends. So tell me about the day job. Was it something that you worked with your hands or something that you said your dad had a company that is some kind of a manufacturing company or something?
It was it's right outside of Memphis. He sold big old industrial cranes, crawler type cranes with the big lattice type booms, pick up 120, 150 tons. And they were made in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they were old dinosaurs, and you cannot tear them up, and you can still get new parts for them. They probably hadn't made them a new one in 30 years. But he was selling the daylights out of them back years ago, and when the business kind of went under, I moved off to Arkansas, and I kept the biggest customer and just sold them parts for years and years and years. And then, like I said, about 10 years ago, they got to talk to me about coming to Birmingham, where they're located at the steel mill down there in Fairfield, Alabama, and they needed somebody to work on the cranes. And so I loaded up the family and headed off to Alabama and just started working. I mean, paid me very well, worked my tail off, sent me to Baltimore half a dozen times. And beautiful Gary, Indiana, they got a big job up on the U.S. Steel plant up there, steel yard up there. They got a big job going on. Spent a lot of time up there, which is just a lovely place if you ever get a chance to go to Gary, Indiana. But just working on big, heavy cranes. I never was crazy about it, and I did it for several years there, and just kind of slowed down. The steel mill shut down in Birmingham, and everything kind of got slow, and it kind of played out on me. So we ended up coming to East Tennessee. Like I said, 4.5 years ago. We had a grandson was living with us while his mother tried to get her life together, and we got custody of him, brought him into our home in Alabama, and our lawyer told us we should be in Tennessee because it would help a whole lot in the long run. So we loaded up the family and headed to Tennessee, kind of like the Clampets kept doing. But here we are in Crossville, Tennessee. It's a little town about 2 hours east of Nashville and about an hour west of Knoxville. Great place, great people. Found us a great little church. We call it Mayberry. It's a little laid back, and nobody's in a hurry, but there's nothing wrong with that. We're very pleased with it. So,
see that crane operating. You were selling crane parts, but then you started operating cranes, and that's a manly man job that you sit outside and do some work, man. People need to learn construction still. There's still those jobs. Not everybody can get a technology job. I know even me, I like to stream online stuff, do this podcasting, and I even play video games online and such. But I got a job during the day. I do some work outside and get my hands dirty here and there. It's not all glamour like you see before you. There's hard work to be done, and people got to know that those jobs are still important. Going out and working, yeah, it's hard work. You sweat, you come home tired, and dirty. And your wife probably doesn't want to kiss you at that point. No. She says, get straight to the shower, take your clothes off, go straight to the shower, and get cleaned up before you even think about getting near me. But these are jobs that need to be done, man. And I'm glad that you did that job. But and then ultimately you moved to Tennessee for family, so you can be close to your family, man. So you can get custody of your family, and that's noble. That's noble, man. You gave up whatever you had left in Alabama, and you came to Tennessee. See, we're learning more about you, Mark Grisham. There's nuance, man. There's parts of you that you're good people. You're definitely good people. You're not.
Well, I think you appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
not just an author. I could tell by by the mannerisms you have. You know that you're. Yeah, I mean, we're even dressed similarly. You know, we got the same kind of plaid shirt, very very country. You know, but you got those mannerisms that have been instilled in you by your grandma and your dad and your family growing up in the church. So I mean, this is me just recapping what we've already been talking about, but this all goes into your literary work. I'm guessing. I really need to read these books. Civil War is really something that I've been into. Every time I'm flipping through channels and I see the History Channel and they're talking about Civil War. Oh yeah, let's stop there. Or World War II. Oh, let's stop there. You know, it's amazing what war. It's so interesting. What do you find most interesting about it? Is it people, or is it that the kids are getting killed? What is it that you find most interesting about the Civil War?
Oh, well, I don't know. The brutality of it is just it's hard to fathom. I don't know how any of those guys survived the war after what they had to live through for 4 years. The second book is called Diablo. It's kind of. It's not really about the war. It's the summer before the Civil War. You kind of use the Civil War as a timeline to tell the story and kind of give it a background. The election of Abe Lincoln is looming in the background, which everybody knows how that's going to affect the country when it happens. But my characters end up in a flatboat floating down the Mississippi River looking for this guy's wife. Every time they stop along the river on either side, they would get an update on the election or the war. And by the time they get down to New Orleans, it's on. They take a long time to get there because they're stopping and searching at every little town along the river looking for this guy's wife. And I think when they get to Vicksburg, Lincoln is the time they get on down to Baton Rouge and New Orleans. They've already fired on Fort Sumter and it's on then. So that's a cool part of it. I don't really. One of the last scenes involves a Union warship with the bad guys trying to get away. But a lot of talk about the war, a lot of decisions, a lot of anxiety. What's going to happen? What we're going to do? Where we're going to go? What about this? What about that? And that's true to life. You can imagine, what those people, especially on the river. The Confederacy had no Navy, so they were at the mercy of the United States Navy, and they didn't know what was coming. They knew it wasn't going to be good, but they didn't know what it was, what it was going to entail and when it was going to happen and everything else there. So. Crazy time, no doubt.
Well, Mark Grisham, here we are thinking, you wrote this over the last couple of years, and we've already talked about it. The country is kind of divided. What, man? I'm loading this question. What inspired you to write this? But I'm looking at the times that we're living in right now, and could that have been the inspiration for this?
I don't know, because like I said, I wrote most of it probably 7 years ago.
7 years.
Probably 90% of it was written a long time ago. So I had a few scenes I need to clean up, some exit scenes for some of the characters, and I wrote those last summer. But that was before any of this ever happened. So I don't see a tie in there. But I mean, as always, I guess when you look back and look between the lines, sometimes there may be something there that you didn't see the first time. Kind of like reading the Bible. You can read the same verse every day and get a different meaning every day.
You're absolutely correct, man. And I was talking to the wife. This country is going bankrupt. It's going to be bankrupt no matter who gets into the White House. It's going bankrupt. The tax cuts from last year or from the last few years have been bankrupting we need to make the government smaller. Make the government smaller. They're in our business too much, and we need to get out of the Middle East, man. Our people are getting killed out there for no apparent reason, but oil and that the people that are making munitions are getting rich, but our young people are getting killed out there. I mean, we need to get out of the war. And here you write about war. You write about, well, you don't write about the war, the fighting, the killing. You write about the people, how they're affected by the war. By the war that's looming in the current book and the war that is happening in the book that you did previously. So yeah, I mean, you write about personal issues of people that are going through these times. I imagine, man, how do you get into the minds of these people? Is this stuff that you take from you have to get it from your own personalness, or is this how did the ideas come to you? Or do they come in dream like your grandma?
No. I just try to become my characters. I think, okay, this guy's in this situation. What would I do? What would I say if I was in his same situation? And kind of go from there and build. And if you get that female character, look, hey, how would she react if I said this to her or that to her? And try to put some humor in it. I always try to find a way to put some humor in it. My mom always told me, you got to find humor in everything in life, even death. You got to find humor in it somehow. If you don't, you're going to go nuts. So it's fun to slip a little crack or a little sarcastic remark or something like that in between the characters, and it kind of builds a rapport with them just between themselves. So I just try to become a character. That's pretty much how I do it. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I used to hang around with comedians a lot when I was down in South Florida, and let me tell you, those people find the humor in everything. A tragedy just happened, and a split second later, they're making jokes about it, and you think, ooh, that was sick. But in that circle of friends, it was just, oh.
It was normal.
It was so normal.
That was normal.
You laugh, and then you go, ooh, should I have laughed at that?
Yeah.
It just got, but we have to find a way of relieving ourselves in these tragedies, in these tragic times. Whatever you're in, whatever problems you're having, we've all dealt with death. We've all dealt with life. But I'm starting to sound like a Clint Eastwood movie. Your words of life, or your words of death.
Sounds good, man. Preach it, brother. Preach it.
But I remember, it was that Josie Wales. Yeah, that was a great movie. But I mean,
I love it.
When are you always writing? Are you always thinking about writing? Or, I mean, how does a Mark Grisham wind down from all that? Getting into that character.
I hadn't written. I've got a story in my head. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get it out. I'll tell you, most of my day is consumed chasing kids. These little boys have kind of woken up. We get the oldest one, we take him to daycare every day, so we get him out of the house. But we got a 3-year-old too. So my wife is running the women's ministry at our church currently, and she's gone just about every day. So I got baby duty just about every day. So it's hard to write because I have to mentally go back to that era in my mind, and you can't do that when you got a 3-year-old saying, "I want a popsicle, Daddy. I want a popsicle." So it's got to be a nice, quiet. I don't know, just your own world, just somewhere I even get earphones sometimes, put those on and just block out the whole world and just kind of mentally go back there and try to tell. And it's a lot of fun. I tell you, I really enjoy it. I need to get this other book out of my head. But it's like this one's not complete yet because we didn't get to introduce it properly. I want to we had a movie deal on it. That kind of hit the wall too when everything went bad. So we want to get that going again. But I just got to finish up Diablo. I got a few more copies to sell. I want to get this movie deal done. And once that's said and done, I'll probably sit down and start writing another book. And hopefully this time next year we'll have another conversation about another book. Hopefully. So.
Well, I mean, going back to the comedians I was talking to, they have a writing. They have various writing regimens. Some of them wrote whenever they thought about something. They wrote a joke, whenever, I thought of a joke, I wrote it down. And then some people would sit, 9 to 5 or 7 to 3 and actually sit down at a typewriter or at a computer or whatever device they have for recording and write. Do you set time aside to do your writing, like this 2 hours, this 4-hour block? Have you ever done that with your first book? Did you set time aside, or was it just came out when it came out?
That's the way most people write. I think John writes like that. The guy I wrote the first book with, David Donaldson, writes like that. They plan everything out, what time of the day, they know the scene. They know how it's going to end before they ever start writing it. They just got to fill in the blanks. I have no clue. I may go a week without writing. I may sit down to write a scene, and when I start writing, another scene comes into my head. I write that one. I'll finish the scene I started on, and sometimes another scene will come up. And if for long enough, you got a chapter right there. And then I may not write anything again for another week or two. And it's when it hits me. It's called seat of the pants.
Yeah, because don't worry about it. That's flavor, man. That's flavor of life. No, the people that'll see your name, they're going to see your name on this podcast, and they're going to go, "Oh, wait, I want to be a writer. I want to learn how to write things, how Mark Grisham writes," and they're gonna want to know what your style is and how how you get it out there, because writing is a job. Especially if you want to make that your job, you have to treat it as such and give yourself time in the day. You know, like if you go to a job for 8 hours a day, it's just like any other job, right? But you say that the writing for you comes a little more sporadic. So you've got other things going on. You got family. Family happens. Life happens, right?
Yes, no doubt. We have kids too. They just ran in the back door. The two things that are happening here. So
I'm completely happy with that. People that are listening to this, they got families too. They started off as children, so they can relate. These podcasts that are put out there, and these long form podcasts. Who can sit for an hour and not have anything happen? Have a phone ring? Have a pot fall in the kitchen? Who can sit for an hour and not have something happen? So life happens around you, Mark Grisham.
It's kind of funny the last few months when they'll be doing a podcast, somebody's getting interviewed somewhere. How many times a dog would start barking, or somebody would ring the doorbell, or a siren would go by. So I know exactly what you're saying there. But
yeah, I listen to podcasts all day long, and the ones that are the most interesting are the ones where real life happens. And I'm so happy that you're a family man, Mark Grisham. You got, you say you have your beautiful wife, and she passed behind the camera a couple times. The kids came in. It's good, man. It seems like Mark Grisham's doing well at this point in his life, man.
I'm very blessed. I am a very blessed man. I probably don't deserve near the blessings I do have, but I'm happy to have them. I really am. I've got a wonderful family. I got my health. Life is God is good.
Yeah. And when I read the little blurb that Diablo is set here in Arkansas, and I went, wow, that's pretty cool. I get to talk to Mark Grisham and find out more about, why he set the book in Arkansas. Were you have you spent any time in Helena, or what made Helena the place for a setting for this recent book, Diablo?
It was just a starting place, and I've always been fascinated with the Mississippi River. And as kids, we'd ride down the levees and just sit there and drink soda pops, we'll say, and throw them into the river and throwing logs and just watching the current take them, and then watching them pop up 100 yards downriver, or just the other side of the river, and just the power of the current of that river just always amazed me. And a whole lot of the book, they're riding down the river in a flatboat. So there's a whole lot of scenes where they're actually on the river itself and all the towns along it. So I guess that's probably where it started at.
Yeah, the mighty Mississippi, man. I know when I go to Little Rock and I pass over that bridge and I see, the Mississippi's, the Arkansas River, I guess, is going underneath, and that kind of feeds into the Mississippi. But, and I see Pinnacle Mountain over there, and I know we live in some great country, man. If you go all across these United States, you'll see some beautiful, beautiful places, and they can inspire. And I'm so jealous, I say I'm jealous that you can get those inspirations and put them to paper and put them down as a story. And being a storyteller, man, it's just something I've never been good at. But what I'm pretty good at is talking to folks and staying engaged and learning about people. And that's what we're doing today, man, is learning about you, Mark Grisham, the man behind the books. So Diablo, how's that been going lately? You say you just got that just this last summer, like July of 2020?
I finished it in the summer of spring of 2019, and it came out. We got the hardbacks about this time last year, and got off to a great start. Having a good holiday season. Had a bunch of stuff set up for next year, next spring, and then, man, everything started canceling, and the COVID got worse, and the cancellations they increased. So we just kind of had to shut it down for a while. We tried, like I said, to do some online, but just never could get anywhere. So we just kind of threw up the white flag for a few months till things calm down, and we'll hit it again here and see if we can take another shot at it, man.
Yeah, the COVID's hitting everybody, man. I know the first couple of months I had no DJ jobs. Done. That's it. And that's my extra cheese. Then you start going through your savings a little bit. So COVID's hit everybody. I'm done with it. I was kind of hoping that November 4th, COVID was going to be completely off the books because it got real politicized. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. It's bad. It's good. It's not as bad as it was. I don't know what to think, man. But I just want the country to open back up and go back to the way it was. And I need some smarter people, some scientists to go out there and
quit blaming everybody. Everybody quit blaming everybody else and find a dead gum cure, man. I mean, let's try to work together, man. It ain't nobody's fault. Nobody could have predicted this. Nobody knew how bad it was going to be. But let's work together and try to work it out and quit pointing fingers everywhere. I don't know.
That is correct, sir. That is correct. All right, Mark Grisham. I mean, I know I've taken a little bit of your time. Diablo, the novel is out there, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Not just because it's set the backdrop of Helena, Arkansas. I want to learn more about Arkansas. Did you have to get a lot of history of Arkansas while you were writing it? Was that part of the research? Or do you research quite a bit to get the backdrops?
Well, no, I've been to Helena many, many times in my life. It's a beautiful. At one time, it was a bustling little river town. It's kind of died off like a lot of small towns in the Arkansas and Mississippi Delta has done over the years. But at one time, it was a thriving little town, and it's still a pretty cool looking little town, the way it's kind of built along the river there. So if you ever get a chance, stop in there and take a look at it, man. They had a blues museum in there at one time. The day we were over there, me and my wife went over. It was closed, but they got a real cool. They used to have a blues festival over there every summer. I don't know if they do that anymore, but it's a cool little area, cool little town.
I suspect, man. I mean, I know I passed it on the highway, this way to Helena, and I've done some shows out there. Well, I guess all up and down I-40, Marion County and West Memphis. I think West Memphis is probably the furthest I've done DJ jobs on this side of the Mississippi, Man, I appreciate the state that I'm in. I'm glad I married a hillbilly.
It's a beautiful state, and there's some wonderful people over there, man. I tell you, some of the best people in the world living in Arkansas, no doubt. Yeah. And they catch a lot of grief because, some of the ex-politicians that are from there kind of gave them a bad name, but it's a wonderful, wonderful state, wonderful people. So.
Well, I mean, I guess that's something that came out of the Civil War is that the population counted in multitude, so the South got a little more power after the slaves became full citizens, right? Wasn't that one of the byproducts?
But for so many years after the war, the Confederate soldiers weren't even allowed to vote. So you've heard of the carpetbaggers and the people from up north that came in and just took over political office and just kind of ran things, and it got pretty shady pretty quick. A lot of bad stuff going on. Probably worse than it is now, believe it or not.
Well, I would say it's worse than it is now, man. I kind of hope that we're getting better and better and better. We've learned from that history. That's the other thing is that the people that are wiping out history, wiping out a statue. Okay, that's controversial here or there. Okay, that guy was a bad guy. We shouldn't have a statue of him. Okay, that's arguable. But don't wipe out the whole history. Let them still read about that guy because you got to learn from that guy. Why was he a bad guy? So teach the kids.
And a bad guy in our eyes, back in those days, he wasn't a bad guy. He was just normal. But when you look at something 150 years later through a different lens, it doesn't appear the same. And I understand that. But where do you stop? I mean, do you go down and do you rename the Jefferson Memorial? Do you rename Washington, D.C.? Where do you stop, man? I mean, I don't know. There we go, getting political again.
No, it's not political, man. It's human. It's human. It's how we become better humans. And so, Mark Grisham, your writings are going to help us do just that. Learn from the past so that we don't make the same mistakes again. Who was it that said that? Learn from the mistakes of others so you can't make them all yourself. I can't remember who said it.
I've heard it many, many times. Yeah,
me too.
If you do away with your history, you're bound to repeat it. That's the thing. That's what I've heard most of my life too. If you do not know your history, you're going to repeat it most times. So.
Well, that's good, man. Mark Grisham, you got, I guess, those 2 novels under your belt, and you got another one in your head that's ready to get out into the world eventually, probably over the next year. Expecting.
Yes.
expect another Mark Grisham novel. The hardback is available. Where do people find it?
MarkGrishamAuthor.com is the best place to get it. I'll sign it, personalize it, write Merry Christmas to whoever you want me to, and ship to your front door there. They make great Christmas gifts. If you got a reader in the family, and especially a Civil War reader, I promise they'll love the book. I got some great reviews on it. Everybody's read it seems to enjoy it. So far, so good, but we'll see.
Well, when I say I'm reading a book, it's usually an audio book because I spend a lot of time with my headphones on my head listening to podcasts and audio books. So I want to put it to you, Mark Grisham, with your very sounding, bounding voice that you have. I want you to read that audio book, man. There's plenty of places in Tennessee that you could find a good microphone and a nice sound booth that you could bang that out in probably a couple of days and make an audio version of your Diablo book, Mark Grisham. Will you do that?
We'll definitely consider it and maybe do a trial run, see how it goes, and go from there, man.
Yeah, at least read the first few excerpts. I have your YouTube page up. I know it has that one video from TJ Cates on there. You getting interviewed at Nashville Entertainment Weekly, but I've subscribed to it. And if you could just read like the first couple of paragraphs in your beautiful voice, man, and I think that would get people to come in to bring it in to come and purchase your novel, The Diablo. All right, Mark Grisham, any other avenues you want to explore? Any shout outs you want to give to the people that have helped you along the way?
I got one of my best friends I've had for many, many years. He's a guy named Tommy Walker. He works for Stone Ward there in downtown Little Rock. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hi to him, man. Him and his family, great people. Got a lot of friends in Little Rock, but just known Tommy for many, many years, like a brother to me. So.
That's beautiful, man. It's good to remember the people that have helped us along the way, for sure. All right, well, let's finish this thing up. Usually I finish with last words for the people. And Mark Grisham, this could be words to live by, stuff that you've stuff that you heard in the past that you live by for your whole life, or it could just be whatever pops into your head at this particular moment in time. Mark Grisham, last words for the people.
Oh, just forget about chaos and everything going on, and just remember whatever's happening now, it doesn't really matter in the long run because God is still sitting on his throne and he's still large and in charge, and it's all up to him. So don't fret, don't worry, everything's okay. It's going to be all right. We're going to be fine.
Well, there you have it, party people. Mark Grisham, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, writing is in the blood. Storytelling is in the blood. That was amazing. That was amazing. He's a good dude, and he's writing books, and he's writing stories about history. It's nice that we got into a little bit of history, and we talked a little bit. I know he said, I don't want to get too political. Nobody ever wants to get too political. Nobody even wants to talk about religion either. I want to talk about all that. I want to learn what your views are. I want to know what you think, what you know, what your ideas. Why do you think that way? You know, don't be divided. And I'm so glad that I talked to Mark Grisham and we chit chat a little bit about that. You know, it's on all of our minds. A lot of, well, I can't say all. I can't speak for everybody. I can speak for myself. It's on my mind. It's on his mind that the country is getting divided. And I think a lot of that is because the amplification of the voices, the few, the very few, the far right, the far left. And I hate that there's a far right and a far left. Come on down the middle. You know, people say, I guess, what is the Texas saying? Nothing down the middle of the road but yellow lines and dead armadillos. I think there's plenty of room down the middle of the road. People are so far off to the right and the left. You know, the cars aren't even on the road. You know, the people are, you know, the middle of the road is perfect. There's plenty of room here. Come on in. The water's fine, you know. But my goodness, a good person. And Mark Grisham, I wish you nothing but success. And you know, you're raising little kids right now, you know, and I suspect by the time you were in your 60s, you were thinking, man, okay, I'm done. Let me settle in. Nope, I'm going to start raising some little kids. No problem. Do it. If you got the means, if you got the ability, raise a family. Do it. You know, they'll keep you young and they'll make you old at the same time. I have a 15-year-old that does just that. Makes me feel old and young at the same time. Because I look through her eyes and I think about how she's experiencing things for the first time. And she'll tell me things that, of course, I already know. I already know what she's talking about. I already know what she's going to say. But she is seeing it fresh for the first time. And that's a beautiful thing, is when kids discover, the world outside, and you see it through their eyes. And we see things through your eyes and through your writing, Mark Grisham, and you're, hopefully the kids can go outside and play, like we used to when we were kids. I'm sure you spent a lot of time in Memphis, in the dirt and outside, and didn't have to get stuck inside all day long playing video games. What video games? Back in the 60s and 70s, there's no video games, baby. Well, I guess in the 70s they started Pong. Bloop, bloop. Wow, that's a video game. That'll keep you inside and keep you from going outside. Nope. I know. I played Pong, and then I went back outside to play. Mark Grisham, keeping history alive and telling history. I know we covered it at the end, is that you don't really write about the wars themselves. You write about the people that were affected by the wars and the upcoming wars, the people that are affected by the history. And that's good storytelling, man. That's something that I need to work on. even at my age, I got to work on that. Is good storytelling. I think I've rambled long enough here at the end. Anyway, it's good talking to you. It's good meeting you, Mark Grisham. I appreciate that. All right. Well, if you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. Oh yeah. And if you want to watch me do some online game streaming, you can do that too. #KeysDAN Gaming. I'm wasting time online. I need to get outside and play myself. Before I play myself. Ooh, as the kids would say. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.